everyone, and welcome to another video. This is going to be all of the stuff that I got for the second half of February, and it's not very much for this video, but hopefully still pretty interesting for you guys. And I'm just going to go straight into it. February has been sort of a slower month for me overall, just in actual purchases. I've had some pretty urgent and large bills to pay, so I just haven't had the money to buy anything. But in saying that, I did get all the new releases that I wanted for this month, both in this haul and the last video I did. So I'm not missing out on anything that I wanted to prioritize. And yeah, there's a couple extra things here as well too, so yeah, like I said, just getting straight into it. First of all is the one and only anime I got for this month, and that is Funimation's Blu-ray and DVD release of Nichijou, My Ordinary Life. This series came out in about 2010, 2011, quite a few years ago now at this point. And was very, very, very popular when it initially came out, and I think it has stayed quite popular despite the fact that it wasn't licensed for such a long time. I know that Bandai Entertainment did license this for release just before they went bankrupt, and once they did, the actual license was in limbo for a long time. Nobody really knew whether it would be getting relicense. So yes, Funimation has put out the entire series subtitled only on Blu-ray and DVD in this set. I did have the Australian DVD set for a very long time because we did get it over here, but I wanted the Blu-rays, so I decided to get this release. Nichijou is a absolutely hilarious sort of bizarre off-the-wall comedy, and I've said before in previous videos, I'm not always the greatest fan of Japanese humor. It doesn't always hit with me the same way that it does a lot of other people. There are some comedy series that are immensely popular that I don't really find funny at all, and of course humor is subjective for everyone. It's all up to personal preference, but for me, Nichijou is one of those shows that is absolutely just hilarious, absolutely hilarious. I haven't read the manga, but from what I know, it's a very very good adaptation of the manga. I don't think it's a complete adaptation of the manga, but from the sort of series it is, it's not, there's no plot, it is very episodic, so there's no need for them to have covered the entirety of the series. It takes, I know there was an OVA episode that came out before the show that wasn't nearly as funny as the show itself, so I know it might take a little while to get into it, but it's just so bizarre but also charming in its humor. It has a different, just look for underneath, but yeah, just really, really, really funny series. All of the cast is great, even though we only really know 4 or 5 characters. It is a much larger cast. There's a lot of individual characters' vignettes over the course of the series and throughout each episode. And it's just, the range of humor is great as well. Like there's really off the wall bizarre stuff. There's puns, there's just really subtle sort of humor in things, but it's just executed really, really well. And I think Kyoto Animation did a really good job with this one. You can tell it's fairly the animation style is fairly like their moe cute standards, similar to Lucky Star. So it sort of taps into that aesthetic more so than some of their other shows that aren't necessarily comedy based. And the character designs are good representations of the actual manga itself, but in saying that, it's not like a key work or any of the other multitudes of series that they've done. So yes, I pre-ordered this one. I was actually going to cancel it before release just because I didn't think I'd have the money on the release day, but I did. So it ended up being that it was sort of unexpected, but I'm happy that I got it in the end. I didn't have any real problems when the money went out of my account, essentially. So yeah, I'm glad that I finally have it. It certainly was a wait. I know, especially in the US, for this title to be released. So I'm happy that we're finally seeing it come out in more English-speaking territories. And next is manga, of course. Quite a bit, not a huge amount, but quite a bit here. And first of all is probably out of all of these series, my most highly anticipated release, and that is Vertical's release of Volume 5 of Ryo Hanada's Devil's Line. So this is a series I talk a lot about whenever I get it. I'm very much a fan of this work. It's a seinen pertaining to essentially what are vampires, but within the series are referred to as devils. It has the inclinations of a lot of these sort of monsters living within a human civilization stories, but this one I find is very, very good at the human aspect of all of the characters, including the vampires, which I think some manga don't necessarily execute as well as this series does. This volume in particular, there's a lot of developments both on the relationship side as well as with the overall grander conspiracy, anti-devil movement plot. And really, really fantastic moments in here. I say this every single time, but this series really draws you in, and like I said, it's very good at its human moments, and in that sense, I mean, it's empathetic. You can definitely connect with the characters and their struggles, even if they're not something you personally have gone through. I think the reactions and the sort of situations are all very, very, very powerful things to see, and this, like I said, I really, really love this series. Since Volume 1, it's only improved, which, I mean, I enjoyed Volume 1 a huge amount, but the way it's plotted, the way it's developed over these 5 volumes has been phenomenal. I think there's a perfect balance between the two sides of this series, and just even the smaller incidental characters in the series you really grow attached to very quickly. So yes, Volume 5 of Devil's Line is wonderful. I highly recommend the series if you're not reading it already. Like I said, it is a seinen, so it is darker than, you know, maybe some of the typical stuff you're reading. Vertical is doing a lovely release. The translation is great. It's got it's got quite a bit of humor. Like the best way a sort of darker setting story can really work is with humor. You can't have, you know, tense situations and you know, conspiracy and all that and doom and gloom and everything else, building, 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 without that sort of human and humorous side to it. So in all aspects, I find Devil's Line, especially in the writing sense, wonderful. I can't wait for volume 6. I think that's coming out in a couple months, and I'm just so glad that I gave this series a shot, and I implore you guys to try it. It's definitely worth the read. Next is a comedy series that again, it's one I talk a lot about whenever I get it, but that is Volume 6 of Nozaki-kun, or Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun by Izumi Tsubaki. So this series is a 4-koma, so 4-paneled like so, but there are larger chapters pertaining to singular themes within the series. If you haven't tried this series, I definitely recommend the anime. It is probably the easiest way to get into the series. It really gives you a feeling of the timing of the jokes and introduces you to the personality of the characters. But the series itself is very, very, very funny. More of the same with this one. We get lots of shenanigans from all the characters, most notably Kashima, Mikishiba, and Nozaki himself. There's a lot of discussion of summer vacation in this one, and of course shoujo manga, which is what the title is referring to, with Nozaki-kun having a shoujo series running in a monthly magazine. It's very funny. I'm so glad that Yen is releasing this series. I think it's one that is definitely sort of just a relaxing, like you sit down and you read it and your mood always improves because it is just very, very funny. And yes, I really can't say much more on that. Again, this is another comedy that really works well for me. It's absolutely hilarious. The last volume was, I think, more so the jokes hit a little bit harder than this particular volume. But in saying that, that's not to say that this volume was wasn't funny. There was definitely some very, very strong humorous moments in this, and yeah, it's always great when you can get a new volume of Nozaki-kun. It's just a lot of fun, and it's wonderful as well if you're sort of used to the shoujo tropes and stereotypes and that sort of thing. So yeah, it works well on multiple levels. Next is a volume of a series I haven't gotten for a very, very, very long time, but I do really enjoy it. It's a series that I read in scans a long, long, long time ago. And once it was licensed, I stopped reading it because I wanted to actually pick up the books. But it wasn't a huge priority, and it's not the sort of thing that I feel is going to go out of print or anything very quickly. But this second volume, I was on a website that I normally buy my manga from, and it was only $6 for the second volume. And it's a yen press release, so the general cost of it is usually closer to $15, $17 for me. So I jumped on that deal. Even though I wasn't spending any money on manga at the time, I knew I couldn't miss the opportunity to pick this up for such a deal. And that is Love at 14 by Fuka Mizutani. This sort of self-explanatory series, I'm not sure if it's a shoujo or a seinen series about first love, basically. Two 14-year-olds who are perceived by their classmates as being very mature and very above the rest of the kids in their class. They're the group leaders. They're the ones everybody relies on and inspires to, but who are secretly dating, and they don't want anyone to really know because they feel like the class would have less respect for them if they realize that they're not so much the mature students that everyone else thinks they are. It's just a very sweet story. I think it's very relatable for most people who have experienced that first, like, very innocent young love of your pre-teen / early teen years. It captures that mood of, like, trepidation, but also just the overwhelming, like, happiness you feel just being together. That sort of very innocent side of attraction. I think it's a very realistic portrayal of that, and I'm sure most people have felt that at some point in their life, whether or not they were actually dating someone or whether it was just a crush from afar or whatever. It's very relatable on that sort of sense. In this volume, it does introduce two new characters. One sort of a rival character, and one someone who is interested in someone older. In reading the scans, I was never a huge fan of that particular, not the character himself, but spoilers for people who want to read it. It's a boy in their class who has sort of affection for their music teacher, or their teacher in general. I can't remember. She might be a science teacher or something. And she knows that he's, got a thing for her, and she uses that to her advantage because he's sort of a problem kid. I was never a huge fan of, like, not glorifying student-teacher relationships, because it certainly doesn't do that. I'm not a fan of glorifying student-teacher relationships, but I'm not really a fan of student-teacher relationships in fiction in general. It's just really not my thing. Definitely crossing a line there for me, but with this particular one, at least at this point, it's very much not a reciprocated affection. I think it is very realistic in that students may or may not, or may have crushes on their teachers, male or female or whatever else. And teachers, I'm sure, are very aware of that to an extent. So in that sense, I do think it's quite realistic. If it goes too much towards the, like, teacher falling for a 14-year-old, then I'm like, no, thank you. That's not really my thing. And I feel like it could go either way. I will probably still be reading it if it goes in that direction, but I don't think it really will, especially not to the extent of some series. So, but that's just a small part of the series, of course. The two main characters and the main couple really are the selling point of the series, and I think, it's very sympathetic, and a lot of people can relate to it a lot. And yeah, so I'm glad that I got the second volume. I know there's like 5 or 6 out already, but who knows when I will get them. So there's the teacher and student at the back. It is like, for how it's doing the student-teacher thing, I think it's doing it well. It's good execution, but I don't want teachers falling in love with students. It's a bit weird. Don't want that. And next is Volume 10 of the collector's edition of Fruits Basket by Natsuki Takuya. Again, this is a series, if you watch my videos, I get pretty much every month. 2 more volumes of these collector's editions, and then it'll be over. It's been great rereading this. I say that again all the time whenever I get these volumes. I think Yen has done a really lovely job on these collector's editions. I know Volume 1 had some issues with covers getting dirty and everything else, but they certainly fixed that by the time Volume 2 and onwards came out. I do really think they improved a lot on the Tokyo Pop release that we used to have, and just it's beautiful. I love the fact that we have so many colored art pages at the beginning. So yeah, I mean, not much to say. I definitely recommend it. Fruits Basket is sort of a classic within the shoujo genre. If you want to try a more typical shoujo that is very well received, Fruits Basket is probably the way to go. If you're interested in starting a shoujo. Yeah, it's a bit older at this point, but it still holds up really, really well. And yeah, it's a lot more than what it seems to be at first. The direction the story goes over the entire series is wonderful, and Takia really does know how to write a pretty dramatic story when she wants to. And yeah, I'll be sad when it's over, but I've already been sad about it being over before, so I'm sure I'll get over that. And finally, for manga, we have one BL title, which is Rihito Takarai's 10 Count, Volume 3. I really like Rihito Takarai's art style. There's certain series that I've read, and that she's done the art for, and I've really enjoyed. Most notably 7 Days. I think that one is very well known. But also things like A New Season for Young Leaves, and she's done something else, but I can't remember. 10 Count is the first story that she's both written and done the art for. And whilst there are certain aspects I like of this story a lot, there are... it's not perfect. There's definitely some things that are... I'm not sure if uncomfortable is the right word, but it seems very ill-informed, I think, is probably the best word to use for it. Volume 2 really shifted the direction the story was going in to much more explicit territory, shall we say. And Volume 3 really doesn't improve on that very much, if at all. In saying that, I'm still very interested in reading it, which is maybe hypocritical of me, seeing as I've dropped things before for similar reasons, but it's not to the same level as Don't Be Cruel, in my opinion. That really was quite off-putting and unsettling for me. 10 Count, I think, doesn't quite know what it wants to be, and it doesn't quite know how it should be executed. It's a fairly standard BL trope that it's following, and I appreciate that. Like, I know that it's my problem, but it's fairly standard within the community and the genre for being acceptable. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of it, of that particular thing that it's doing. But in saying that, I will probably read more. Yeah, there's something about it that sort of appeals to me in the larger sense. I think the characters are especially the main character, is quite interesting. I kind of do actually want to learn more. Yeah, so it's doing things that I don't necessarily like in BL in general and in the stories that I read in BL, but there's enough to keep me reading, at least at this point. I know that Volume 4 was quite controversial, and I mean, at this point, if you're not, you know, at one side or the other of loving it or hating it, I don't know how Volume 4 can be even more controversial. But yeah, so I don't know if I can say that I'm liking it, but I'm definitely reading it. And yeah, I'm not sure whether or not it's Takarai's sort of newness as an author. I don't know if she's written anything just purely by herself before this. Certainly nothing that's been published in English. But or whether it's just sort of that's the full intention of her work and how she's doing it, and I can respect either side of that, but yeah, for now I'm reading it, and I do appreciate that Sublime has been bringing out these volumes very quickly. It is a very popular series in Japan. It's a very beautiful series. Takurai is great at her artwork. She certainly knows what she's doing. So yeah, I'm not sure how much. I'm not sure whether or not Volume 4 will push me away from the series. I don't know. It sort of appeals to me in a twisted sense. Similarly to some of Ko Yonada's works, I wouldn't put it at the level of Ko Yonada. She is far within a league of her own, and actually doesn't have a lot of the problems that BL does. This has a lot of the problems that BL does, but I am interested in the characters in the sense that the characters are twisted, sort of how they are in Koyona's works, especially Twittering Birds Never Fly. I don't know. I am sort of undecided on this one. I am liking it, but at the same time not liking it, if that makes any sense. And finally, this is not manga or anime, but it has to do with manga and anime. This is actually a textbook, and it's one that a friend of mine on Twitter told me about, and when I heard about it, I had to have it, basically. I looked around, couldn't find copies anywhere for it aside from eBay, because I think it's a textbook for a specific university. I'm not sure how far or how many places stock it, but that is Deborah Shamoun's Passionate Friendship, the Aesthetic of Girls' Culture in Japan. So I haven't fully read this as of yet. I did only get it the other day. But from my understanding, it's sort of how girls' culture, shoujo, has developed within Japan, how Japan has been influenced by that throughout basically history, but especially during the 20th century. There's a lot of references to works like Rose of Versailles. I know there is also some Moto Hagio stuff in there. And it's all this is the sort of thing that is very interesting to me. We have Heart of Thomas, which is written by Moto Hagio, and then we also have Rose of Versailles. And I think it's fascinating to see and really learn about how things have been influenced by female creators, and how the entire genre of sort of shoujo in general, and the idea of young women within the country has changed and adapted and all sorts of things. So yeah, like I said, I haven't read it completely as of yet. I've only read the first chapter or so, or first 30, 40 pages. It's really, really good. Deborah Shamoon obviously knows what she's talking about. This is more of a educational text than anything else. But I really recommend it if it's something you're interested in. It's fairly... I'm sure there's other places to find it. But for me, the cheapest place to find it was on eBay. Fascinating work. I think it's definitely something to read if you're interested in Japan's culture as a whole and how women creators have influenced media of all types. Just really, really great. So yes, it's not exactly something that everyone would be picking up, but I definitely think it is something that you should read if it's the sort of thing that you're into. But that's everything. There's a lot. This, well, not a huge amount. I mean, compared to some of my pickups where there's 30, 40, 50 volumes, this is by far nowhere near to that amount. But it's more than I really expected, honestly. So yes, those are everything that I got for the second half of February. March, I'm not sure how much I will be getting. I may have one anime thing because I just paid for it today. So I probably will have one anime thing for next month. But even though I have now paid off some very urgent bills and larger bills, my money I am actually saving again now because my sister has sort of organized a trip overseas for herself and myself. So I'm saving for that basically. I've got to I've got to pay for a flight and accommodation and hopefully have some spending money, and that is going to be at the end of April, so a couple weeks, 6 weeks from now. I do have money, so I can pay for that, but that does mean that a lot of my extra money that would go towards this sort of stuff is not I can't, pay for, I can't spend it on that sort of thing. I'm saving so I can go on vacation. In saying that, there will be manga. I did pay for my pre-orders hopefully you guys will like that. And there are a couple of my pre-order things that I still need to buy, but that's not a huge amount of money either. But there's not going to be a huge haul. I know some people have been spending a huge amount recently, to which I applaud them because it's a big commitment, spending a lot in a single month. And then, unfortunately, you sort of get in the habit of that, and it ends up, tens of volumes every single month. And for me, I'm happy I broke that cycle, but it's very hard when there's so many things coming out and everything's so interesting or good or cheap. That's another factor. So yes, I haven't had the largest hauls as of late, but hopefully I've had some interesting hauls. I am fairly predictable with certain series that I'm getting. I'm sure most people expect Fruits Basket and Nozaki-kun and probably Devil's Line from me, but I have some additional stuff to that as well. And yeah, next month I can't tell you exactly what's coming, but hopefully It'll be interesting, and I hope to do a couple more videos before my next monthly pickups video, or bi-monthly pickups video, the first one for March, just because I have a tag I have to do, and I also have a couple like series reviews or art book overviews as well that I want to get done. It's strange because once I get into the schedule and sort of habit of going to uni all the time, I get more productive on everything else. So hopefully you'll see more videos in the coming weeks. Yes, so thank you so much everyone for watching. I hope this was somewhat interesting and enjoyable, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. Till then, bye.